everyone. My name is Eric Hopkins, aka JEL. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, what is going on at Star Wars? What is going on with Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and the crew over there? Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Sometimes, obviously, we've got the Bad Batch season 3 currently running on Disney Plus, but we've also had all sorts of movie announcements from the Ray movie. Which is basically going to be centered around the new Jedi Order, 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. We've got the Mandalorian and Grogu potentially coming out first. Who knows at this point? Like I said, we've got a beginning of the Force movie possibly coming out from James Mangold in the next few years. Star Wars has been very notorious about announcing projects and don't always follow through on them. Or it sounds like the directors will leave the project and then the project is quietly but not actually announced to be canceled, and one of those movies that was kind of canceled to a degree or quietly not talked about anymore was Rogue Squadron. And apparently, that movie was going to be directed by Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins. And after Wonder Woman 1984 kind of failed at the box office, obviously the pandemic played a little bit of that as well. But that movie was just bad, bad, bad. If you want to watch any DC movie, that's the one to skip. But after that movie completely tanked, that kind of got you know Rogue Squadron kind of got. It's like Lucasfilm got cold feet with Patty Jenkins, and rightfully so. That movie was terrible. Um, so, but now it appears, according to Patty Jenkins herself, that she is now back doing the movie Rogue Squadron. So, this is what she had to say. I think on a podcast called Talking Pictures, she went on to say, when I left Star Wars to do Wonder Woman 3, which was a movie DC was going to do before the DCU reboot, she said, I started working on that. And we talked about, well, maybe I'll come back to Star Wars after Wonder Woman 3. So we started a deal for that to happen. When Wonder Woman 3 then went away, Lucasfilm and I were like, oh, we've got to finish this deal. We finished the deal right as the strike was beginning. So I now owe a draft of Star Wars to Lucasfilm. So we will see what happens there. Who knows? She then goes on to talk about how they've got a hard job ahead of them as well, and that's absolutely right because Lucasfilm has kind of, like I said, it's kind of been, what are we doing? It's almost like Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know exactly what projects to greenlight and which ones to follow through on. It's almost like they just quite don't know exactly what to do right there because obviously the main Skywalker story is pretty much wrapped up. They're kind of adding bits and pieces here and there with the series and stuff, but now they're trying to figure out what direction to take it. And I personally am looking forward to the Thrawn movie. I think if you do that right, you could make a modern day version of the Thrawn novel trilogy that they did back in the early '90s and things like that. I think you could make that a outstanding trilogy to bridge the gap between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. But I digress. We'll see what they do there. And I'm trusting Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni over there to get that timeline and make it outstanding. So yeah, but as of Rogue Squadron, we don't know exactly where it would fall in the timeline either. But I know Patty Jenkins has talked about how she wants to do this movie in honor of her late father, who I believe was a fighter pilot. So yeah, it makes perfect sense why she would want to do this sort of film. And I think she's also talked about how she would love to do things, for something as global and as well loved as Star Wars is for the fan base. And that's always good to hear too. So I know there are other directors in the Star Wars like Charmin Obaid Chinoy, who talks about how she wants to do nothing but just make men uncomfortable. Those sort of comments don't really, ring true to Star Wars fans, especially when most of Star Wars fan base is considered male. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of female Star Wars fans out there as well, no doubt about it, and they should be included, no doubt. But I mean, when you making comments like that to upset the fan base, it's nice to hear comments that are, endearing to the fan base. Like, hey, I want to make the best film for this series that I possibly can, and a Rogue Squadron film would be great in my opinion if we could get it off the ground. I'm just at the point now with Star Wars, especially when it comes to their announcements, is of a "I'll believe it when I see it" type stance, and until they start actually following through on some of their promises more, because I don't know how many series they promised and they ended up, not following through on. And there's obviously other circumstances like, when they announced Rangers of the New Republic that was going to star Gina Carano, which I'm still mad at Lucasfilm for a little bit. I personally don't think Gina Carano did anything wrong. I mean, if you're going to fire her for something she said online, you got to fire Pedro Pascal for doing the same thing, but they let him stay on The Mandalorian and they fired her. Why? Because one believed a certain political way and the other one believed a different political way. I just don't find that fair. Either you allow everybody to have their free speech or you don't allow anybody to have it. It's like, yo, So I just don't know why they did that. But anyway, I digress on that one. But hopefully that Star Wars will start to, live up to some of their promises. Obviously, people don't care for Kathleen Kennedy. Some people don't, but you got to give her credit where it's due. Where she has created a lot of successful series like The Mandalorian. Some people would argue that's fallen off as well. We'll see how the Acolyte does. I know that's kind of her baby. That's coming out to Disney Plus sometime this year. She's all, I think Skeleton Crew was also kind of one of those things she was heavily involved in. A lot of people have criticized her with the way she's kind of run things and some of the stuff she's been putting into the content. And I think people kind of some Star Wars fans like more what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are doing. That's kind of got a little bit less politically involved as well. There's that sort of thing. It's kind of been happening as well. Star Wars is obviously very political in nature when it comes to the stories, is obviously, but I just think audiences these days are just completely, tired of being preached at. To be honest with you, but so yeah, we'll see what they do here. I'm looking forward to Rogue Squadron if the movie does actually take place. It's got a lot of potential. The video games for Rogue Squadron were a lot of fun, and I think that you could definitely tell some cool stories when it comes to the X-wing pilots or the Y-wings or whatever letter you want to choose in the alphabet. Here, they've got a bunch of different ones. So yeah, I would definitely look forward to it. I don't know where it would take place. I would love to see it maybe take place during the war with the Empire. That would be great, and the original trilogy timeline would be awesome. I don't know. Maybe we'll just have to wait and see where it takes place in the timeline. But I'm looking forward to the movie. Hopefully, Patty Jenkins will knock this one out of the park like she did the first Wonder Woman movie. Not so much the sequel. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm glad to hear that at least it sounds like it's back in development, and we'll see how it goes and where it ends up going in the future. But what do you guys think? Are you guys looking forward to Rogue Squadron? Are you happy that Patty Jenkins is hopefully on the comeback here? Or do you kind of feel like she's kind of maybe we don't want to see more movies from her? I mean, it's one bad film. Everybody has one bad film in Wonder Woman 1984. So can you really hold that against her in the long run? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But comment below and let me know what you guys think. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And until my next video, guys, take care and God bless.